It's driving me nuts that people think they can get away with using AI to actually write content. It's nuts.
Putting the ecosystem, putting the partnerships at the center of everything along with the people, I think it's very people first.
It's hard for executives to spend their money on tactics that are meant for brand building and driving awareness when they just want to see the ROI.
Real talk backed up with real action. This is GTM News Desk.
I'm Nick Bennett.
And I'm Mark Hillens.
Let's see what's trending. Welcome to GTM News Desk. I'm Nick Bennett, and today we have a very interesting story as kind of our lead story of the day. And for anyone that out there that isn't following the news, PathFactory has acquired UberFlip. We're going to get into what does that mean, but as someone that, knows both of these companies, I think I've been following both PathFactory and UberFlip for a while. I feel like Randy from UberFlip, like when he went down the evangelist path, I was like, oh, that was always so interesting to me. And like did a fantastic job. And PathFactory, I feel like I've known them for a while. Both fantastic products, interested on them coming together. And it's going to, we're going to kind of go into a little bit of a buyer first marketing funnel, which is going to go into our third segment of today's episode. But let's dive into it. So
let's do it.
I think, reading through the blog, and we're gonna link that, but the PathFactory blog about the acquisition, when it comes to buyer first marketing funnels, and if you don't know PathFactory or UberFlip, they're more of like the content, AI agents, more on the PathFactory side, but like they're delivering personalized content experiences. And I think that's everything that PathFactory cared about. Now, UberFlip's platform really focused on creating engaging content hubs that really guides buyers through their journey seamlessly. And again, seamlessly, think about that. Like everything is delivering personalized content and doing things, guiding people seamlessly. That is so people first. You're not pushing, you're not trying to mandate that something happens. And now I think that the combined platform, and I'm interested to see like how much of UberFlip that they actually take in or implement into their own product. But I think the combined platform's going to enhance personalization, and it's going to make the funnel even more buyer-centric using content, kind of like personalized content or content-led growth to a certain degree within the entire funnel.
So hold on, Nick. Why do you think they acquired UberFlip? PathFactory.
I mean, honestly, because there's the economy is terrible, and so many the M&A has to happen. Like there has to be mergers and acquisitions because there's too much like MarTech and sales tech out there. Like
there's that. I mean, I think it's basically the same tool. They're the same tool, right? They're the same tool. So to me, it was more like both companies are probably looking at this and saying, we need to rebuild our tech because that tech is antiquated. A lot of tech that we're talking about on this show today, in the past episodes, in the future, is antiquated, given what people now want and expect, thanks to all of the advancements in artificial intelligence. So both companies were going to have to rebuild, and like that's a lot of money. So, and I just don't think their investors were interested in that. So they said, all right, well, these are extremely complementary. They're basically the same product. Let's bring them together. So I don't think they're gonna like integrate the products together. But do you think they're going to integrate the products together?
I think they'll take some of it. And again, I've never used UberFlip personally. I've used PathFactory before. So, I mean, I could see. But, I mean, you could say that about a lot of technology. Like, there's tons of products that could be similar to a PathFactory. I mean, should they go out and acquire all of those?
No, probably not. So maybe it was, again, like there's reasons why you acquire. You acquire for tech, you acquire for revenue, you acquire for people. It's really those three things. I mean, that's why you acquire a company. So is it the tech? I doubt it. Is it the people? Maybe. Is it the money? Probably more the money, quite frankly. Right? Like, I don't know. I mean, that's my gut.
I was going to say, what about the customer list? Do you think the customer list like has its own value from like an audience perspective?
Well, I think it's the money side, right? Yeah, I mean, you have some attention, but like honestly, I haven't heard about UberFlip in forever. I don't even think they do marketing anymore. Yeah. So, I mean, what are you buying, right? What are you really buying? Right. I do like their message. I like what PathFactory is doing. PathFactory just recently, another breaking kind of news story, they announced Chat Factory, which is to what you were saying, this AI agent that helps combat website bloat. Websites are super bloated messes, and this is going to get into the second segment in just a second, which is about Google. But websites are bloated messes. PathFactory is like, wait a minute, we can use AI to understand your whole website to then better serve up the website experience to buyers in the context of what they actually care about, which is going to be a lot of what we talk about with Nikki Engel from Gainsight in segment number 3. But the point remains, why did the acquisition happen? No one's going to fully know unless you're on the inside. I think it's more just, look, it's money. The companies were very complementary. The ICP was the same match. You have to find a way to kind of get yourself out of the mess you've been in. It's to UberFlip to some degree. This is an easy way, maybe not easy way, but a way to do that.
Yeah, well, and I was going to say, and it, something in their blog post that they put out about the acquisition, I feel like is very similar to what you and I talk about. And it says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And, it talks about how they have had similar missions, aligned values for years, but where PathFactory excelled was in content analytics and personalization, and UberFlip carved out a strong niche in building and managing centralized resource hubs. I know you have lots of thoughts on resource hubs as well, but going back to that first part, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I feel like we talk a lot about that. That's people first, like putting the ecosystem, putting, the partnerships at the center of everything along with the people. I think it's very people first.
It's always better to grow together. Always better. Always better. Learn together, grow together. Absolutely. Story number 2. Second story of today. Google, as always, has been doing a lot, Nick, with their algorithms. Always screwing around with their algorithms. So much fun, so much fun. But I do like the recent changes Google's made. Because one of the things that we're trying to combat, to ultimately kill, is generic go-to-market. Generic go-to-market is terrible. Like a resource center, they suck. Resource centers, we should do a whole episode, and we will do a whole episode about resource centers. Hey, maybe with Pete from PathFactory. Yeah. They suck. They are one of the many issues when it comes to generic go-to-market. Google's like, I want to help you as a marketer get rid of generic go-to-market and help really the buyers get rid of generic go-to-market. So in the last few months, they've done many updates. So in March, they rolled out this helpful content algorithm update. If you haven't seen that, you might want to go check it out. Secondly, then in April, they are saying, wait a minute, we're going to show you less low quality content and we're going to create more original content and bring that up, or at least find more original content and bring that up in the search results. Great. Goodbye, listicles. I would love to never see a listicle again in a Google search. I'm guilty. I just did one on LinkedIn today. So I guess, you can shoot the messenger. But a listicle suck, typically, unless you weave a good story into it. And then in May, they announced SGE, Search Generative Experiences. I'm sure a lot of you folks have seen that. What do you think about those, by the way, Nick? SGE. Do you like those or not like those?
Yeah, I definitely like them. I think, I agree. And I don't, reading this article and kind of going through it, it was very interesting. But I feel like their new, abuse policy around site reputation, like you mentioned, like the low quality third-party content, people that are manipulating search rankings, I'm glad that those go away because I feel like there's always someone gaming the system to do something.
Oh, there's always bad actors. Always bad actors.
Yeah, and it's hard. It's hard for the people that are trying to do it the right way, like us. Oh, yeah. How do you actually leverage this? So I'm excited. Going through some of these other changes that they made. I think something that they talked about that I thought was interesting was the adapting strategies piece, emphasizing content quality, updating existing content, and focusing ultimately on the user experience to align with the new algorithm requirements. I thought that was really interesting because again, it's just I feel like it's hard to game, it's hard to manipulate, and I feel like if they can actually, I feel like it's any platform out there, but hopefully Google leads and all these other ones follow. But it's if they can emphasize actual content quality and let the content do the work versus people trying to hack it, I'm all for it.
But you folks listening need to now realize that you have to create original content, and that's the only content you should create. If you're having AI write your content, it's so dumb. In my opinion, that's such a bad idea. Don't do that. Interview people and then edit it and help AI add stats, context, other things to it. But you need to create original content these days. And that is one of the best medicines for generic go-to-market. Original thought, original content, original stories, original experiences, originality. I can't say that more. And it's just like, it's driving me nuts that people think they can get away with using AI to actually write content. It's nuts. The last thing they added was this idea, another E to their EAT acronym that's been out for a long time. The expert, the authority, the trustworthiness of the site, of the content. Now it's like, well, what's the experience of that? So how well you present your content, I think is another thing they're looking at, which is more, again, about the quality versus the quantity of the content. So create less, but more original content. Like, don't create stuff that is just recycled garbage that someone else has already said. Infuse people into your content. That's what makes it original. Every person is unique. So get those unique perspectives and voices into your content. I cannot stress this enough.
Yeah, so important. I agree with you. Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see their spam update as well. Like, you know, again, going back to like not being original. I feel like anyone that's using like AI to just like copy and paste, throw it in, like it's spammy content, spammy practices, like, but they haven't really been penalized up until these kind of new like 2024 like updates. So I don't know. I'm excited for it. And as someone, you know, I feel like between us, like, I mean, you know way more about SEO and just kind of like how, you know, this all plays in together. But I think this will help a lot of companies who put out quality content, you know, again, as long-term like SEO play throughout a lot of these algorithm updates.
SEO is not dead. Don't even think about that. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. SEO is going away. It's not going away. It's you know, search is not going to go away. You know, it's like, you know, think about 40 years ago, even before, you know, or even more recent, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, I would go to the library to search for information. You as a human are always going to search for information. How we get that information will change. SGE with the Google AI answer at the top is one example of that. But people are always going to be looking for good quality information. Search is never going away. Don't make that mistake. Lean into Google, lean into YouTube as two channels that are going to help you build your content, your community, etc. All right. So those are the two newsworthy segments for today. We have a very special guest coming up. Segment number 3 is on tap next.
All right, we are into the last segment of the episode, and we have someone that is absolutely fantastic. If you haven't met Nikki Engel before, I want to introduce you to her. She is the Director of Go-to-Market Strategy for the Customer Education product at Gainsight, but she spent about 4 years at NorthPass. She was the VP of Marketing there. She's done a lot of other marketing roles. And when Mark and I were trying to think who could actually talk about the marketing funnel and not only just talk about it, but educate and get people excited about a marketing funnel, because let's be honest, it's not the most exciting thing in the world. Nikki came to mind. Mark was able to get Nikki on the show. And Nikki, we are so excited that you are here. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to bring the excitement to marketing funnels.
Well, let's dive into it. So, and for those listening, we're going to have two parts of this. We're going to go into the regular podcast conversation with Nikki, and then we're going to go into some exclusive content. So to kick things off, let's talk about how to make marketing funnels today buyer first and not suck. Because let's be honest, a lot of times they do suck. So Nikki, you know, love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah. So I don't think the steps of the marketing funnel really need to change necessarily. I mean, this funnel has been around for many years. You create demand in the awareness phase, you capture demand in the consideration phase, you convert leads in the conversion phase. I think to make our funnels more buyer or human first, we just need to change the messaging strategy that we then apply to each of the stages of the funnel so that it actually resonates with the buyer. And we genuinely create a path for buyers to engage in instead of it just being this one-way street. So I'll give you an example. At one of my companies, I won't say who, we did not use a buyer-first framework. The tactics were not coordinated. Our messaging was, I would say, aggressive, always pushing for the demo or the meeting, regardless if the prospect was aware of who we were, or if they recognized the problem that we were solving, or better yet, if they even acknowledged that they had that problem. So our call to action to book a meeting was essentially layered into each stage of the funnel. So it's safe to say that it did not work so well. While we had the right tactics at each stage of the funnel, we weren't courting the prospect. We weren't listening to cues of the prospect. And instead, we were rushing to the finish line in the excitement to land that meeting. And because that's what the executive team was really pressuring us for. So that's not thinking about the buyer first. That's thinking about the product and the company first. So when we say making the funnel not suck, we're really talking about making the message within each stage more relatable, more personable, more responsive to really what the target's needs are, and especially delivering it in that right order and having everything really orchestrated together. So I guess what I'm saying is we need to put our company agenda aside a little bit and think about the perspective of our buyers as humans. And we need to really just respect the process, because it might take time, but you'll get more qualified leads out of it and more leads will come.
Yeah, I love that. I've worked for, in Mark, I'm curious on your thoughts on this too, but I've worked for companies where it's been very much spray and pray, and like, I won't name the companies as well, but like it's been more than one, unfortunately. And, you know, it's just so interesting when you change that mindset. It's like a mindset shift ultimately. And when you shift that mindset into actually putting your customers and your prospects first and realizing that these are actual people that we need to build relationships with, I feel like everything else follows to a certain degree. But it's like you can't lead the charge. Like if you're going to say, Nikki, I want you to change the marketing funnel today, and like you're the only person that cares about this, it's just not going to be effective. It has to be a company-wide effort. So I love a lot what you said there. Mark, don't know if you would add anything to it as well.
Amen, Nikki. Like what you just said needs to be sent to every CEO and most board members immediately. Like we're going to take this and we're going to spray and pray all of those people with that message, because they don't get it. They don't get it. And even sometimes marketing leaders don't get that. So number one, amen. Number two, you're talking about this idea of pushing versus pulling. A lot of people have this belief that you just push people. You can push people through the funnel, right? Like I'm going to push a demo on you. I'm going to push this thing on you. I'm going to do these things. No one likes to get pushed. Like think about you're in a room and someone pushes you. That sucks. That's not nice. That's what we're doing to buyers these days in many regards. Like you do not push people. If anything, you help pull them up, right? Instead of push them down. So anyway, amen. Building off of this a bit, what are some, or maybe your number one most egregious mistake when it comes to creating these types of marketing funnels that are very company first, not people first?
I want to say not thinking about the buyer as a human, but since we already talked about that, I'll say really not outlining or setting up your goals and your KPIs at every stage of the funnel. And this is important for a few reasons. One, it really gives you good guidance for your messaging and your calls to action, right? Like it kind of forces you to not push for meetings, as you say. So not push for meetings at every stage, no matter how much that is the end goal, and really think about what metrics you are aiming for at each stage. So for instance, during the awareness stage, the focus should be on driving curiosity and engagement and not pushing for sales meetings. You want them to click. You want them to respond to a question. You want them to simply acknowledge your presence, acknowledge they saw your message. So you wouldn't use like a call to action that says book a demo. More likely, you're going to use a call to action that says learn more and drive people to a landing page. Then later on, you'll retarget them. You'll follow them, follow up in other ways with other information. But you really want to make sure that you have the right KPI to match the message you're trying to convert and talk about. I think like for a second reason, it also helps you just identify the flaws in your funnel so that you can actually pinpoint where there's any drop off. So if the goal of every single phase was the same KPI, you wouldn't even know where you need to optimize. Like good performance at the top of the funnel, but then maybe you're going to see low performance at the bottom. And now you know where to tweak, right? You know what part of the stage, what channels, what content you need to really look at instead of having to redo the entire funnel. Just to go with that, obviously KPIs are important. I think sometimes they get overlooked, but also making sure that if you have these functional leaders, for certain channels and whatnot, making sure that during the planning phase that they're also aligned on these KPIs, and not only that, because they're the ones that actually have to report on it, but making sure that they have proper reporting tools based on the metrics you want them to actually track and measure. So those are going to be your indicators of success. And so you want to make sure that you are set up and that everyone on your team is aligned on them.
You need to focus on the quality and quantity of those metrics, meaning how many of those metrics are about the right fit. See, you're shaking your head, right? Don't just look at the metrics without putting a layer of quality over all of them throughout the entire funnel. No, that's just one kind of point and comment. But then you come from an education type background product. NorthPass, congratulations, was acquired by Gainsight recently. Love that. You and I spoke at NorthPass, or when you were in NorthPass a few times. And this idea of education is super important. Customer education, educating buyers, educating customers. I want to just have you quickly react to what I'm going to say now around one of the issues with marketing funnels is twofold. The marketing team doesn't educate the rest of the company enough on how we're trying to design the right experience to pull buyers through to customers. And then secondly, they're probably not doing enough education to buyers, right? To your point around the right messaging and content and whatnot during the marketing funnel or in the marketing funnel. So it's a two-prong approach and problem when it comes to educating your internal teams and educating the buyers. How would you respond to that?
I think it was you that we talked about this. You have to treat your education like a product. And so you have to have a marketing strategy for it. And so you take that same idea of, do my internal teams understand it and know about it? Are they comfortable promoting it? Do they know the value of it? Do they, just like you value props for your product, you have value props for some of your internal programs as well, or external programs. It doesn't have to just be the thing you are selling. It could be the services that you also provide. So I think that a good marketer needs to, take this framework, and not in the framework, but everything you know about marketing and apply it almost to everything in your life, to be honest. It was really good to have a marketing education. You could really apply that everywhere.
Agreed. I mean, we joke, Nick and I joke, everyone is basically a salesperson. They are. Everyone is selling something to someone.
And everyone's a marketer or wants to be a marketer.
So, it's spot on.
Well, let's go. That kind of brings us to the next question, because I've worked for some executives in the past that don't always understand marketing, and I think that's a big red flag as is. CEOs that think they're marketers, but they're not, or they just don't believe in marketing, that you should run as far as you can if that comes. But Nikki, I'm curious, what is the most common misconception from executives about a marketing funnel specifically?
The first thing I'll say is get yourself a CEO who comes from a marketing background. It really does help. I've seen it all, so it's definitely an easier sell. But I think the most common misconception from executive teams or executives is that you can skip to the good part, right? Which usually means jumping straight to generating pipeline. We had an event. Great. How much pipeline did we get from it? We spent money on LinkedIn. Great. How much pipeline did it generate? We're doing a partnership program. Great. How much money is it making us? And those are important, but I think it's hard for executives to spend their money on tactics that are meant for brand building and driving awareness when they just want to see the ROI, when they just want to see that people want to buy their product. And it will come, but it just takes longer to get the ROI because you need to complete the full funnel process. So I think that's also why it's important to really outline your KPIs when you are building your marketing funnel, so that you build in those leading indicators of success and those small wins that are going to get you to the pipeline and can probably get your executives a little bit off your back while you are, progressing the buyer down that funnel.
I agree with that 100%. I mean, it's It's so interesting because I think I came up as a field marketer for many years, and one of the things that I had to do was paint a picture of everything that we did in field marketing, and field marketing touched a lot of different things. But to the executive team, how can you paint a picture and using a funnel? Because there's really, you have the marketing funnel as is, but like field marketing and event marketers, like they have their own kind of funnel that funnels up into everything else. And it's like, how can you like tell that picture and use those insights and the data that actually tells you there, and like celebrate those small wins to be able to get, like you said, to the actual pipeline creation or the influencing of the pipeline through the activities and the tactics that you do. So yeah, I'm 100% on board.
Telling a picture is hard, Nick. Telling a picture is hard. Painting a picture might be a little bit easier.
That's our marketers, though. You got to promote, you got to sell, you got to find the value in everything, right?
You got to be hype people. We're very big hype.
I used to, this is on a tangent now, but I used to advertise for, or be part of the advertising team for a makeup company, big makeup company. And then their number one thing was like, how do you get someone to understand the smell of that perfume when it's a digital ad? It's like, you got to like find other ways to evoke that emotion and like sell a picture.
You gotta use some vivid language. That's another thing, right? Like I think we'll get into your exclusive framework for everyone who's a TACK Network subscriber after this next question. But to your point, you really gotta, use vivid, specific language, and you'll unpack this as you think about, this framework you have, which is wonderful. Before we do that though, what does a people first funnel for marketing look like in your mind? What are some examples? And that will then lead us into this detailed framework.
Yes. So I think that a people first marketing funnel focuses on the journey of the funnel in a sequential order and in a very orchestrated way, and layering on a human mentality to get them to actually engage and convert. So you want to progress them naturally rather than push a sales meeting on them. I like to compare it to the dating world. It would be pretty weird to get a marriage proposal right after you go on a first date, right? You need to court them. You need to go through the stages. You need to determine if they are the one. So I'll give you an example using one tactic, LinkedIn ads, which I'm sure many B2B marketers on here are using. So I come from the advertising agency world. So I'm a big proponent of sequential messaging, sequential advertising, and like, why waste ad dollars on people who don't even know you? And I'm not saying don't advertise to new people because you need to, but be thoughtful about who is getting which message and line it up with your funnel. So using this example of LinkedIn, at NorthPass, what we did was we delivered brand ads that talked about the problems in the industry. Things like customers are churning not because they don't like your product, but because they don't even know how to use your product. And that opens their minds into, well, how do I get them to know how to use my product? And keep in mind, NorthPass was a learning management system for customer education. So once we saw people engage with those ads, or read our blogs about it, or visit our website, or join our database, we use the same message throughout all those tactics, we knew there was interest on the subject. So when we hit them with ads that talked about digital customer education, and how that is a solution to helping customers know how to use your product, which in turn would help their customers not churn or cut their churn problems. So we use industry stats or content that we would develop as resources for them to better understand the solution to the problem. Notice I haven't yet talked about why we're better or why you should be taking a meeting with us or anything else, but we've built that trust and credibility. And we're now gauging curiosity and engagement by opening their eyes to a problem that they might be having and a solution that they might actually need. So now that they recognize our logo, we've opened their eyes to the reasons why they're having this problem and how to potentially fix it. From there, we'll target them with how NorthPass can actually fix it and how we've done the same for others with proof points and case studies. And at this point, the quality of leads really started coming in. And this type of funnel can be replicated across all of your channels, all of your follow programs. And like you mentioned, I have a great framework for people to follow to help them really set themselves up for this natural progression instead of just speeding to the finish line.
Let's get into that now. And this, what you just said, is very relevant to our second segment that we did today around Google's algorithmic updates over the last, say, 6 or so months. They had this thing that was called EAT. It was like expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. And they added an experience to it now. Now it's 2 E's: experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. But like that's what you just said, right? So like Google's saying what you're saying. Now go do that in your own channels and your own funnel, basically. Be someone that's credible, that can really add a lot of value to each stage of that customer journey. And your reputation as a brand and your reputation from a product standpoint will only get better.
I like that. Build your own algorithm.
Build your own algorithm. We'll leave it at that, folks. Build your own algo. Very simple. Don't worry about it. You got it. Nikki, thank you so much. We'll see you in the exclusive content right now.
Sounds good.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of GTM News Desk, presented by the TACK Network. To hear our full conversation with our guest today, head to the link in the show notes to subscribe to the TACK Network. Until next time, I'm Mark Killens.
And I'm Nick Bennett. Keep it people first, everybody.